Good morning. Come right along with me while I about stuff. Good morning. Come right along with me while I discuss. I guess, yeah, discuss is the best way of saying it. The recent state of Star Trek. So as a backgrounder, I grew up with Star Trek. I went to the Oro Minor Hockey League on Saturday mornings, and before hockey, you used to be able to watch Star Trek. Now this is the original series, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, all their follies. Back then it was very, very interesting. So that was the 70s, early, mid-70s we'll call it. And diversity wasn't really a thing on television. There was lots of people that looked like me. Star Trek was interesting in that they had a diverse cast for the time. They had Uhura, right? They had Sulu. And to an extent, they had Chekhov. You got to remember, back in that day, we and the Russians, it was us against them back then. Something called the Cold War. Those Saturday morning shows, for me, hit a nerve. They got me interested in things that were larger than myself. They also got me really, really into technology and what it could do and how it could advance us as humans. Plus, it was set in space, and for someone like me, that just pushes all the buttons, for sure. As the years progressed, obviously new Star Trek shows came out. Next Generation. That one is a great show. I enjoyed it. Again, I watched every single episode as soon as it aired, and I've watched them many, many times on reruns and on DVD and VHS. Ask your parents about that one, kids. They upped the ante with Next Generation. They brought in an even more diverse cast, and they told even more stories from each one of their standpoints, so you kind of understood their characters, you understood them as people. And when you understand them as people, you care about them each week. You care about how they overcome their problems. You care about what problems they might face this week, so to speak. Next Generation was a really good exercise in serial television at the time. It was, each episode was pretty much encased in its own. Episode opens, we get a problem, we get a solution, that solution may or may not work, we get more struggle, and in the end, most of the time, everything works out. And you can jump into Next Generation on almost any episode and understand kind of what's going on. And then we get shows like Voyager and Deep Space Nine. Voyager, that's an interesting show. I enjoyed Voyager quite a bit. I like the trials and tribulations of Ensign Kim. He never gets better than Ensign, so to speak. I enjoyed Captain Janeway, the first female captain. Again, Star Trek, being progressive, being kind of in the now, so to speak. So then comes my absolute favorite Star Trek series, Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine is set on a space station and not a starship this time, making it quite interesting because the sets are kind of the same week to week. They don't go gallivanting to different planets or galaxies or adventures. Everything kind of happens on the station, and it's an interesting melting pot. Again, more diverse. You had all sorts of same-sex relationships. You had all sorts of people of every color, creed, you name it. Everyone was represented in that series. But it was more of a darker series. It got into, speaking of wars, it got into obviously the Dominion conflict. And again, I found it very, very good television. Good writing. We cared about the characters, even Quark and all of his brood, like Nog and Rom and whatnot. We cared about them. We wanted to know how they would make out each week, or if something was hanging from last week, how they dealt with it. We wanted to watch them grow as people, especially Captain Sisko. One of the better captains portrayed on screen, I gotta say. And that brings us to kind of the current era of Star Trek, known as the Kurtzman Trek era. Kurtzman came in, took over Star Trek on the reboot, and I don't know, the Star Trek television series, I don't even know what the plural of series is. Anyway, the subsequent series of Star Trek shows, Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, and now Starfleet Academy, are made, they say they're made for today's audiences. And I can see that in a way, but they really, really just throw all of Star Trek lore and all of the stuff that I grew up with, they just throw it in the shredder and hope something might come out at the other end, and it doesn't. I don't know, maybe I'm just too old, in my 50s, but this new series seems like it's a Harry Potter show mixed in with Saved by the Bell. And if you don't know what Saved by the Bell is, kids, just go look it up. As a franchise, I adore Star Trek. I think it's one of the greatest series. It's tough because I'm a huge fan of Star Trek, and I'm trying to like and enjoy or get any sort of feeling from these new Star Trek shows, and I honestly don't. I realize 100% they're not written for me, they're not made for me. All they've done is they've said, screw everybody that used to be a fan, this is the new way, everybody has to be huggy-feely, and there is a character in Starfleet Academy called Jayden. He's a Klingon. We've known Klingons since the very, very first episodes of Star Trek. They've gone through quite a bit of changes. One of the things that turned me off of Discovery was their depiction of the Klingons. Those aren't the Klingons that we're used to, with the ridges and with, you know, their backstory and whatnot. This is the new Trek, and this is the new way Klingons are portrayed. And now, in this Starfleet Academy show, we've got a Klingon that doesn't like violence, but does like other males. And it's interesting because this Klingon wears skirts, and in the latest episode, you know, looked like a prom dress. Makes it real difficult to latch on and try and care for this character when the entire race that you're depicting is a... I don't even know how to put it. I really don't know how to put it. They just take everything about it and turn it around and make it... I don't know. And it's offensive to me. Klingons are a warrior race. This is not depicting a warrior race. And yes, I know and I understand that there are skirts, skorts, jorts, I don't even know what they call them, but they were in Next Generation first season. We did see some characters wearing them. But I don't know. This, I think, is his way of saying, no, I'm wearing an actual female's uniform. It doesn't sit well with me. And it doesn't sit well with a lot of people, I imagine, because the viewership on Star Trek Academy is quite low. I believe I'm not alone in my opinion of Star Trek Academy. I think they've gone way too far the other way, trying to make it uber inclusive. And in doing that, they've really broken a lot of the lore that's been established with all the series previous to it. And it makes it difficult to like it. that's just my opinion on Star Trek Academy. Thanks so much for riding with me today. I hope you enjoyed.